what I learned is that my money should have a job description. We don't, most of the time we don't give our money a job description. We just think it's money that we earn and use it. So when I did that, I've really revised how I handle my money. And when Wachira and Dwati shared about the chest of drawers analogy, the 3 drawers, right? So how do you spend your time and money? And out of reading several books, also one thing that I've learned, the most precious thing that you have is time. We all think about money. It's not about money, it's the time. So you calculate how many years do you have to retirement. So if you have 10, if you have 15, if you have 20, what do you plan to do with that 15 to 20 years? Or even what do you plan to do in those 10 years? So when you start calculating backwards, it gives you a wake-up call. And it is not, as you say, like what's going on. Of course, you have standing orders, channeling money everywhere. But it's until you pay yourself first. It gives you some satisfaction and gratification. Actually, I started paying myself first end of June. So I started paying myself first. I do the 10% before I pay anybody else. In fact, when that money, even if there is something pressing, I close my eyes, say, pay myself first. So I put a standing order to go to an MMF account to pay myself. So that's how I started, because I realized, of course, you tend to do all these things and then you realize you don't pay yourself. Track your expenses. I have been tracking my expenses. For some reason, I didn't realize I started it way early. I started it in 2012. I have several books. Like, I work with very small notebooks in my handbag. So every time it's full, I put it aside. I have a drawer. I've arranged them. So I am used to writing, not even using the app, just writing. I think I just love the writing aspect, because I even installed an app for recording, but I still find myself with the paper. After the supermarket, I pack, I stay in the car, I write, I give the parking 50 bob, 5 bob. I write every coin. But I didn't realize I was not actually inputting all the data just to know how I was spending until in 2021 when I decided I need. So I'm a collector of receipts. I'm a collector of every receipt. Yes, in fact, everything I buy, I always say, please give me a receipt. So that I sit down and track every expense, transactional costs that have incurred. It's until Wedaka told us, go get your financial statements. I used to only get the ones for loans because I'm servicing loans, so I decided, let me just get those ones. It's until you wake up and get now your bank statement where you transact, you withdraw money from the bank, online banking, do that. I never slept for 3 days. I realized I'm actually making the bank rich when I'm thinking I need to make more money out of them. So it's when you get those statements and get a folder and you get a wake-up call that truly, this is where the leakage is happening. This is where the pockets, because I was wondering why my pockets are having holes. Like I put money and it's leaking out. So those are the leakages that I have been working on. It's work in progress. It's not yet complete. So that's one thing I actually identified, and it's work in progress, and at least I've minimized. For July and August, I've noticed some difference. I'm hoping with time it will. And then monetizing your non-assets. I never thought about monetizing, something that I'm passionate about. I'm always passionate about helping people for free without thinking of charging, because I'm just thinking, if I was in your position, my thinking is you'd maybe do the same. But for quite some time, I have a friend who kept on telling me, you can really make money out of this. I'm like, see, let me just help somebody. So I'll get the information from the internet, from books, share with you, help you freely. But it's also something I'm working on to monetize my non-assets. And they say the value of education is in its use. So I think in the time and value module, I've analyzed the ABC, the 4 accounts that were mentioned. You should have the current account, the irregular expenses account, the emergency fund, savings account, and investment account. So there are among the 4, I had collapsed 2, but now I've separated them, working on the same. Also on financial goals, apart from my daughter, I have my son who loves football. I think he eats football, he sleeps football, he wears football. He's 8 years old, very passionate about football. So, and I had enrolled him, I've enrolled him in a football club since he was 4.5. So he's been, and the coach keeps on telling me, so there's a time they had a trip to go to Europe. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford. So I just told him, let your peers go and then we can always plan. So now when I joined Centonomy, I realized now that's my financial goal. I need to align that financial goal and save up or attach to an investment that will reach there, so that one day probably I can take him to one of the Premier League soccer academies to see how they play. So I'm not a fan of football, but I think I've started learning some football players. So courtesy of my son, and even as a present here, he's actually playing, and he's been complaining that I'm doing Centonomy when I'm supposed to be watching him play. So thank God we are graduating today. I'll attend his trainings. So upon realizing my financial goals, I needed to do some smart planning. Smart planning in terms of specific, measurable, accurate, realistic time-linked planning, which I've actually been doing. And also it made me evaluate my social circle. So as Waithaka said, also evaluate the people around you. Do they build you? Do they destroy you? Or do they diminish you? So you have to build each other. And that took a 180 degrees turn on my social circle. Yeah, in fact, they've been calling me, wondering why I've been quiet. But kumbe, I'm working on myself. They're wondering why, those trips that people say, oh, sijui in 6 months, let's plan to go somewhere. Told them, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore. So, and I've learned to enjoy when I go for work trips, business trips. Thanks to my employer, I tend to travel quite a bit globally. I utilize them and make them also holidays for myself. So the other thing was debt management. I actually didn't know you're entitled to 1 year credit record. Honestly, I didn't know that. So now I know, and I got my report, and I didn't know if you don't borrow, your credit score goes down. So you have to show you're active. So, and ensure your credit score is good, so that you can be able to, especially in business, so that they see you're a good person to lend more money. So that is also something I've learned, at least when it comes to paying debt. That one I have tried on my part. Sometimes I will forego some things just to pay on time, to avoid those phone calls. So how do you tackle debt? This has also helped me. I learned in Centonomy, pay the shortest repayment period. I thought it's you pay the ones with the highest interest. That's how I used to think. That's what I was doing, paying the ones with the highest interest, only to realize you pay the loans with the shortest repayment period. Because I was wondering, hey, you're paying, but you're not really seeing what is not happening, especially when you're in business and you have to use these credit facilities. And sometimes at some point you have to take some overdrafts to run the business. So, but now when I started implementing paying the loan with the shortest repayment period, I would say maybe in December I will see if the effect is still there. And then living abundantly, positive attitude. I think what stood out for me in this module is fear setting. We always have that fear of unknown. Biashara kikosa kufanya, job ishe, what will happen to my life, all those things, Then you realize nothing will happen. Life has to go on. So when I did that fear setting assignment, define my fear. Actually, most of my fears are fear of unknown, as in what will happen tomorrow. So you don't really enjoy the present. You're always thinking, if this happens, what will happen tomorrow? But when I did that, I actually realized we really fear things that we're not supposed to fear. We need to have faith. You know, we pray, ask God for faith, but in actual sense, we don't implement. You're always having this doubt: if this happens, if this tilts this way, will my life, you know, what will happen to my life? I've always been of the notion, ever since I completed campus, I'll never go home. I think I'm of the notion of never going back home and thinking now, nimerudi home, re-strategizing. As in, I used to feel as it's like I've let myself down. Why would I go home? I need to ngangana kama hao wengine. You ngangana like, you know, other people in this Nairobi. They call it Nairobari. You ngangana with them until you get it. It's until you sit down and interview people who have not really had the privilege of exposures that you've had, and you realize those people have faith. They go down, come up, go down, come up, and still have faith they'll make it for the day. Because they have nothing to cling on. They only have God. And I've learned it also through my dad being a businessman for so long. One time, he actually told me that he only got employed for 6 months, the first time he got employed, and has never been employed again. Because he realized he has difficulty in following orders. So he realized probably he can follow himself. And he told me that when he realized that, he decided for him business will do. Fine, he has a degree, but I think he'll utilize his degree in his businesses. And observing him, he's really like learned through the process. He's learned through the process. He's gone down, he's been auctioned, gone up again, auctioned again, figured it out again. The life of a businessman politician. So